Who signed my name? Tell me!
Sade's voice cut through the roadside market. The bulldozer engine was still running behind her. Traders stood frozen beside baskets of fruit, sacks of food, and half-packed stalls. In front of them stood Kola Coker, billionaire property developer, staring at the document his own company had brought. According to that paper, Sade had accepted compensation. According to that paper, she had agreed to leave. According to that paper, her signature was right there. Sade slapped her own worn account book onto the bonnet of Kola's car. I did not sign this. I did not collect 1 naira from you. So before your people destroy where we earn our living, tell me who did. For the first time, Kola had no quick answer. He had spent years believing money could settle every problem, and that love, loyalty, even kindness were just transactions wearing better clothes. He had no idea the woman standing before him would soon tear that belief apart. Don't miss what happens next. And before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from and your local time right now. If you enjoy powerful Nigerian stories about dignity, justice, and unexpected turns, subscribe and stay with us, because this confrontation was only the beginning. The heat that morning had already turned the zinc roofs white with glare. Cars crawled past in 2 stubborn lines. Horns complained from the road. Somewhere behind the stalls, a generator coughed, died, then coughed again. A woman selling roasted corn shouted at a bus conductor who had parked too close to her tray. Normal Lagos noise, except nobody in Sade's row was behaving normally. People were holding their breath. Kola looked from the paper to say. She was not dressed like somebody who had prepared to fight a billionaire before breakfast. A pale blue shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows. Navy trousers, an orange apron tied over her waist. One corner was dark where banana sap had dried into the fabric. Her hair was pulled back neatly, away from her face. Behind her sat 3 large trays of banana, yellow, green, spotted, sorted by ripeness, because Sades hated waste more than she hated rude customers. And that was saying something. Beside the trays were 2 plastic crates of plantain and a small wooden cash box with a cheap padlock. Everything she owned in the business could fit into the back of a small van. Kola's cufflinks probably cost more. Marcus Daniels stepped forward before Kola could speak. Marcus wore a dark green suit despite the heat. Ruby tie perfectly scented, shoes without 1 grain of dust on them. He had the kind of face that could reject a request while sounding as if he had just done you a favor. Madam, he said, there is no need to create a scene. We can take your complaint through the proper channel. Sade turned to him. Proper channel? Yes. She pointed at the paper in Kola's hand. Is that the channel that signed my name? A few traders murmured. Marcus' jaw shifted. Kola noticed. Small thing. But Kola had built companies by noticing small things other people missed. He looked back at the document. Name, Sade Adebayo. Business category, fresh produce. Consultation completed. Compensation received. Voluntary relocation accepted. Signature. It was not an illiterate scrawl. Whoever had written it had made an effort. That irritated him more than if the line had been empty. He looked at Sade again. Is this how you sign? No. Do you have identification with your signature? She gave him a look. Of course I do. Then show me. Marcus cleared his throat. Kola, we have a site meeting at 9:30. Kola did not look at him. Sade. She did not move. Show me. She untied the apron. reached into the front pocket, brought out a slim purse, and removed an ID card along with a folded bank deposit slip. Kola took them. The signatures were not similar, not remotely. He felt something cold settle behind his ribs. Marcus leaned closer. These field forms were handled through the community liaison subcontractor. There may have been a clerical transfer issue. A clerical transfer issue signed her name. Kola asked. Marcus lowered his voice. We do not know that yet. No, Sade said. You do not know because nobody asked. Marcus turned toward her. Please, let Mr. Coker handle this. I am speaking to Mr. Coker, and you will speak respectfully. Sade's chin lifted. Kola expected anger, maybe shouting. Instead, she looked Marcus up and down and said, Respect is not silence, sir. That landed harder. Kola handed her ID back. How many people here say they did not receive payment? Hands began to rise. Marcus stepped in. We cannot conduct an audit on the roadside. I'm not conducting an audit. Kola looked over the hands. 8, then 10. Then Bissy George, who sold cooked food 2 stalls away, raised hers slowly. 11. A man at the back shouted, My brother's name is also there. He has been in Ibadan for 3 months. 12. Maybe 13. Kola's day had just changed shape. He hated when that happened. His life ran on calendars built in 15-minute blocks. Problems were supposed to enter through doors with labels. Legal, finance, construction, procurement, investor relations. This one had climbed onto the bonnet of his car wearing an orange apron. He closed the folder. No demolition on this row today. Marcus stared at him. Kola. Today. The traders reacted at once. Relief. Noise. Somebody said, Thank God. Somebody else clapped. BC sat down hard on a plastic chair. Sade did not smile. Kola noticed that too. You said today, she said. Yes. What happens tomorrow? We review the records. And if your records still say we collected money, then we find out why. Sade watched him for a long second. You should have done that before bringing bulldozers. Marcus inhaled sharply. Kola almost snapped back. Almost. Then he saw the machines behind her. Saw the stacked fruit. Saw a little aluminium kettle on Busy's table, still steaming beside a row of covered food bowls. Everybody here had prepared for a working day. His company had prepared to erase it. He turned to Marcus. Get me the complete relocation file. Not the summary, everything. Marcus' face smoothed itself into professionalism. You'll have it before lunch. And suspend physical clearance on this section until I say otherwise. That could affect schedule. I know what it affects. Marcus held his gaze, then nodded. Kola walked back toward his car. Mr. Coker. He turned. Sade stood beside the bonnet, one hand on her account book. You forgot this. She held up the forged paper. He took it. No, he said. I didn't. For the first time, something like approval flickered across her face. Not gratitude. Approval. Kola found that strangely annoying. By 11:45, his entire executive floor knew there was a problem at Meridian Square. By 12:10, Marcus had placed 3 blue binders on the conference table. By 12:15, Kola was already angry. Not because the files were incomplete, because they were beautiful, every tab labeled, every map color-coded, every payment grouped by batch. Photographs of consultation meetings, attendance sheets, stamped acknowledgements, copies of payment schedules, a glossy relocation booklet with cheerful illustrations of small shops under neat awnings. It was exactly the sort of paperwork investors loved. Tell me, Kola said, how many traders were on the original enumeration? Marcus answered without checking. 146. How many accepted relocation? 128. Compensated? 134, including those who chose cash-only exit. Outstanding cases, technically 12. But most are identity verification or documentation issues. Kola tapped Sade's form. And this, Marcus leaned back. An anomaly. One anomaly among how many? We don't know yet, exactly. Marcus' expression tightened. Kola. With respect, we engaged a liaison contractor because direct negotiations with every roadside trader would have delayed mobilization for months. That is why we pay contractors. Not so they can manufacture signatures. We have not established that. Stop saying that like it improves the situation. Silence. Kola opened the second binder. He knew what Marcus was thinking. He knew because Kola had thought it himself many times. Big projects created friction. Somebody always complained. One tenant said the notice came late. One supplier said the revised terms were unfair. One resident said the compensation did not reflect emotional value. If a company stopped for every grievance, nothing moved. Progress had casualties. That was the language people like them used. Casualties, a clean word. No smell of spoiled banana inside it. No woman staring at a forged signature. Marcus slid a page toward him. We can solve her case today. Authorize an exceptional goodwill payment. Double her assessed amount if necessary. She walks away satisfied. We protect schedule. Kola looked at the figure. It was more money than Sade's stall probably generated in several months. Call her. Marcus nodded once. He thought the issue was finished. It was not. Sade arrived at Coca Meridian's office just after 3. The security desk made her wait, not because anyone had been told to humiliate her. Because systems had habits. The receptionist looked at her orange apron folded over one arm, then asked twice whether she had an appointment. Sade answered twice. Yes, Mr. Coker's office called me. By the time an assistant came down, Sade had already decided she disliked the building. Too much glass, glass doors, glass partitions, glass tables. Even the lift reflected her from 3 sides at once. A place designed so everybody could see everybody while still knowing nothing about them. She entered the conference room and found Kola alone. His cobalt suit jacket hung over the back of a chair. His white shirt sleeves were folded once. On the table sat a bottle of water and a thin envelope. Sade looked at the envelope, then at him. That is fast. Sit. I prefer to stand. Kola pressed his lips together. Fine. He pushed the envelope forward. This is an offer without prejudice to any wider review. It covers the assessed value of your stall, relocation inconvenience, and loss of trading days. Sade did not touch it. How much? He told her. Her face changed, just for a second. Kola saw the calculation happen. Stock, rent, debts, possibilities. Then her face closed again. And the others? This offer is for you. I asked about the others. Their cases will be handled individually. Who signed their names? We are reviewing that. Who received the money marked against them? Also under review. Where are we supposed to move to? Kola pointed to the relocation booklet. Sade opened it. She stared at the artist's impression of neat stalls with little potted plants in front. Then she laughed. Kola's eyebrows rose. What? Have you been there? Yes. When during site selection? What time? He paused. I don't remember. Morning? Afternoon? Afternoon, probably. Sade turned the booklet around. Do you know who buys from me? People who want bananas. For the first time, she looked offended on behalf of bananas. No. Office workers, bus passengers, women going home from school runs, drivers who stop for 2 minutes. People moving. So your relocation site has almost no moving people. It is less than 2 kilometers away. 2 kilometers is another country when customers are walking. Kola leaned back. Sade continued. Your consultant measured distance. Did anybody measure customers? He said nothing. She pushed the envelope back across the glass. No. Kola frowned. No what? No, I will not take it. You haven't even opened it. You told me the amount. It is generous. That is not the question. What is the question? Why is my name on a payment list when I was not paid? Kola felt irritation climb his chest. We are looking into it. And while you are looking into it, what happens to people whose food spoils? What happens if your fence blocks customers? What happens to Bissy, who cooks food every morning, because she cannot carry yesterday's stew into tomorrow and pretend it is fresh? You want me to freeze a major development because several traders dispute documentation? Sade's eyes sharpened. No. I want you to stop speaking as if the size of your project makes our losses smaller. That shut the room up. Even the air conditioner seemed too loud. Kola stared at her. There were people who challenged him for sport. Journalists, activists, competitors. Board members with enough shares to be brave. Sade was not performing bravery. She simply did not know how to pretend a wrong thing was small. Or perhaps she knew and refused. He tapped the envelope. You understand that this money could help you? Yes. And you're refusing it? Yes. Why? Because if I collect special money and walk away, what happens to everybody who cannot enter your glass building and sit at this table? Kola looked at the table between them. For once, it felt larger than it was. Sade picked up her apron. When you have an answer that is not an envelope, call me. She turned toward the door. Said. She stopped. Kola did not know what he wanted to say. Thank you sounded ridiculous. You are making this unnecessarily difficult sounded worse. So he asked, how long have you sold bananas there? 5 years. Why bananas? She glanced back at him. Because people always need something they can afford today. Then she left. Kola sat alone for a while after that. The envelope stayed on the table, unopened. That evening, Sade counted 27 bunches of banana she had not sold. 7 were already too soft to carry into the next day. She separated them. The best could go cheap to a woman who made banana bread. The worst would become loss. She wrote the number into her account book. Bissy watched from her chair. You refused money? Sade did not look up. Who told you? This market has faster internet than your phone. Sade snorted. Bissy leaned closer. How much? Sade told her. Bissy's mouth fell open. Sad, I know. My daughter, that money could change your life. For how long? Bissy opened her mouth, closed it. Sad pointed at the unsold fruit. This is my life, not one envelope. Bissy sighed. You are stubborn. I am tired. Same family. Sade smiled despite herself. Then her face hardened again as she opened the copied relocation sheet. She had spent the afternoon thinking. That was the dangerous thing about Sade. Once she started thinking, she became difficult to move. Bring your payment alert tomorrow, she told Bissy. Which one? The one from the compensation. Bissy frowned. I did not receive compensation. Sade looked at her. But your name is marked paid. Bissy stared. The noise of the market went on around them. A bus conductor shouted destination names. Someone dropped a crate. A radio played from a barber's stall. Sade opened a fresh page in her notebook. At the top, she wrote one word. Then, beneath it, WHO. The next morning, she started asking questions. By 8 the next morning, Sade had 4 notebooks open on an upturned crate. One belonged to Bissy. One belonged to a phone accessories seller named Peter, who kept every bank alert because he trusted memory only when memory came with evidence. One belonged to a tailor whose stall had already been partly dismantled. The last belonged to Sade. She drew columns: name, amount listed by meridian, amount received, date, evidence. Problem: nothing sophisticated, nothing fancy. Just enough to stop stories from changing each time somebody became afraid. Write only what you know, she told them. If you don't know, say you don't know. Peter frowned. What if we think? No thinking inside the facts. Bissy looked at her over the rim of a plastic cup. You sound like a lawyer. I sound like somebody who doesn't want them to call us liars. That quieted everybody. By 10-12 traders had given her information. 3 had received the exact amount in the company list. 2 had received less. 4 said they had received nothing. 1 had been given a check he could not clear because the name did not match his identification. 2 were uncertain whether the money they received months earlier had been relocation compensation or payment for temporary access disruption. Sade circled those 2. Unclear. No drama. No exaggeration. If the truth was going to carry them, she did not want to overload it. At Coker Meridian, Marcus had a different problem. Kola was reading the raw file, not the executive summary, not the presentation, the raw file. Marcus knew how dangerous that could be. Successful executives did not usually have time for raw files. That was why companies had layers. Analysts turned messy reality into numbers. Managers turned numbers into decisions. Directors turned decisions into strategy. The chairman or founder received 10 slides and a recommendation. Clean, efficient, safe, until it wasn't. Kola sat at the end of the boardroom table with 3 folders open and his reading glasses low on his nose. Marcus stood by the window. You're comparing signatures? He asked. Yes, we have people for that. We had people for consultation too. Marcus ignored the jab. Kola flipped another page. Same witness on 27 acknowledgements. He was one of the liaison field officers. Same day? They conducted group consultations, 27 signatures, 1 witness, same date, 5 different streets. Marcus came closer. Kola, you're reading the file as if every irregularity is fraud. No. I'm reading it as if every irregularity is an irregularity. That is not how development works on the ground. Kola looked up. How does it work on the ground? Marcus opened his hands. You have informal traders. Some have no fixed records. Some use relatives' accounts. Some change locations. Some cannot produce the same name across 3 documents. You reconcile as best you can. That explains administrative complexity. Exactly. It doesn't explain Sade Adebayo's signature. Marcus' mouth thinned. Then let compliance investigate that signature. I intend to. Marcus turned away. Kola studied him. They had worked together for 9 years. Marcus was not reckless. He was the man Kola sent into projects that were already slipping. He understood contractors, local politics, labor disputes, supply delays, angry communities. He knew how to get a stalled thing moving again, and he had saved the company money more times than Kola could count. That history mattered, which was why Kola did not accuse him. Not yet. Instead, he called Zainab Bello. She arrived 20 minutes later, carrying no laptop, only a legal pad and a purple blouse under a cream jacket. Zainab had the irritating habit of listening without helping you feel clever. Kola appreciated that in theory. Less so when he was the one speaking. He pushed Sade's form across. Review the consultation and compensation process for this project. Zainab read the form. How wide? Start with the roadside traders in Section C. Independent from project management. Marcus' eyes moved to Kola. Kola nodded. Independent. Zainab made a note. Do I have authority to request payment records and subcontractor documentation? Yes. And if the review shows a broader issue, you expand it. Marcus spoke carefully. We have a mobilization deadline in 6 weeks. Zainab looked at him. That is useful context. It is more than context. To the project, yes. To the question of whether records are accurate, no. Kola nearly smiled. Marcus did not. At the market, Sade was learning another lesson. People did not always want the truth if the truth might delay money. One trader refused to give her his details. They said they will pay balance, he told her. I don't want trouble. Did they pay you the amount on the list? No, then say that. He shook his head. Sade, you have strength. Me, I have children. The sentence annoyed her. Then she looked at his face and let the annoyance go. Fear wore many shirts. I have bills too, she said. I know. I am not asking you to fight. Just keep your evidence. If anybody asks later, tell the truth. He nodded. That was enough. By noon, a temporary metal fence had gone up along the edge of the construction boundary. The site manager claimed it was required for safety. Maybe it was. But it narrowed the footpath beside Sade's stall to half its usual width. Customers stopped crossing. A bus could no longer pull close enough for passengers to hop out, buy fruit, and jump back in. By 4, Sade had sold less than half her usual weekday quantity. She looked at the yellowing stock and felt heat behind her eyes. Not tears, calculation. Every bunch had a clock inside it. Green gave you days. Firm yellow gave you maybe 2 if the weather was kind. Speckled fruit gave you hours before customers started pressing it with suspicious fingers and walking away. Banana did not care about construction schedules. She found the site supervisor. Can the fence shift back 1 meter? He shook his head. Safety line. Can you create a pedestrian gap? Madam, I cannot change site controls because of your stall. Not my stall. The whole row. Same thing. No, not same thing. He had already turned away. That evening she wrote another number in her book. Lost due to access. Then she wrote down how many customers had stopped. Not exact. She could not count everybody who did not come, so she counted what she could. Transactions. 38 fewer than the same weekday the week before. The next day was worse. BC cooked less food to avoid waste. Then she ran out early. 2 regular customers came at 1 o'clock, found nothing, and said they would start buying lunch elsewhere. That was how business disappeared. Not with one big collapse. One habit at a time. When Kola received the project progress report that Friday, he read a line twice. Community interface remained stable. Minor access disruption. No material effect on trading activity, he called Marcus. What does no material effect mean? Marcus did not hesitate. It means Temporary access changes have not created a measurable impact significant enough to alter the project program. Measured by whom? The site team. How? A pause. Kola, what exactly are you asking? I am asking what they measured. Marcus exhaled. I'll get the methodology. Get it now. 20 minutes later, the answer arrived. There was no methodology. The site team had recorded the number of stalls still physically open. If a stall was open, it counted as active. Active meant trading activity continued. Trading activity continued meant no material effect. Kola stared at the email. He thought of Sade asking whether anyone had measured customers. He hated remembering that she had asked first. Saturday morning, he did something Hills Dryer found deeply suspicious. Drop me 2 streets away. The driver glanced at him in the mirror. Sir, 2 streets away. Should security come behind? No, sir. This Kenny. The driver stopped. Yes, sir. Kola got out in dark trousers, an open-neck white shirt and sunglasses. Not a disguise. Nobody who followed business news in Lagos needed more than 10 seconds to recognize him. And somebody did. A young man carrying a crate of bottled drink stared. Ah, Mr. Coker? Kola nodded. By the time he reached Sade's stall, half the row knew he was coming. Sade knew too. She was serving an elderly woman who wanted 6 bananas, but did not want 6 bananas from the same hand. Give me 2 ripe, the woman said. 2 that can last till Monday. And 2 for my grandson. That boy will eat anything. Sade selected them one by one. Kola stopped in front of the stall. Sade glanced at him.
Good morning. Good morning.
The elderly woman looked over her shoulder. Sade kept packing. Kola waited. The woman began discussing price. Kola waited. She changed her mind about 1 banana. Kola waited. Then she asked Sade if the plantain was cheaper at the next stall. Sade said, Auntie, if it was cheaper there, would I tell you? The woman laughed so hard she had to hold the stall. Kola looked at his watch. Sade saw him. You will wait, she said. She was here before you. The woman turned fully now. You don't know who this man is? I know. And you are making him wait. Sade handed over the change. Should I chase you because he has more money? The woman looked at Kola. Then at Sade. Then grinned. I like you. You like me because I gave you discount. That too. She walked away. Kola stood there with his hands in his pockets. You enjoyed that. Sade wiped her fingers on a cloth. Very much. He looked at the stall. How much have sales dropped? Why? I read the site report. Congratulations, Sade. She took out her notebook. That was when his expression changed. You actually tracked it? What did you think I was doing? Complaining. She stared at him. Kola regretted the word before it finished leaving his mouth. Sade opened to a marked page. Tuesday last week. 114 transactions. She pointed. Tuesday this week. 76. Another page. Wednesday. 121 before the fence. 83 after. She flipped again. Thursday. Similar. You count transactions every day. I count money. The transactions are there. How do you account for weather, traffic, payday cycles? Her eyes narrowed. Now you want to measure. He gave a small laugh before he could stop himself. Sade heard it. It surprised both of them. Kola took the notebook carefully. Her handwriting was compact and consistent. Wholesale cost. Number of bunches. Retail units. Waste. Credit. Expenses. Daily total. You keep spoilage separately. If I don't, I will lie to myself about profit. How much spoilage is normal? Depends on season, supplier, heat. How much green stock I mix with ripe stock. Your supplier gives you credit, sometimes. On what security? My face. Kola looked up. She smiled. Relationship, Mr. Coker. Some businesses still use it. He almost rolled his eyes. Almost. Instead, he looked toward the fence. Show me what changed. Sade blinked. What? Walk me through it. She studied him long enough to make sure he was serious. Then she called to Bissy. Auntie, watch my stall small. Bissy waved without looking up. Don't stay long, your billionaire customer looks expensive. Kola heard. Sade covered her face for half a second. He laughed again. This time she did too. They walked. Sade showed him where buses used to pull over, where office workers crossed from the opposite side, where the fencing narrowed the pedestrian flow, where one trader had moved her table 3 times because construction dust kept covering open food, where the proposed relocation site sat behind a service road with no direct bus stop and little shade. You see 2 kilometers, Sade said. We see 20 small reasons a customer will not follow us. Kola stared at the empty relocation plot. You could advertise the new location. With what budget? He said nothing. Even if we advertise, she continued, some customers are not loyal to Sade. They are loyal to convenience. They buy because I am there when they are already moving. That sentence stayed with him. People were loyal to convenience. Kola understood that. His entire logistics business had been built on it. He looked at her. You think like an operator. I am an operator. You sell bananas. Her face hardened. He heard it too late. The sentence had come out wrong. Sade stopped walking. Yes, she said, I sell bananas. The bananas do not sell themselves. Kola opened his mouth. She held up one hand. No, don't explain. Just learn. And she walked ahead. He followed. For perhaps the first time in his adult life, Kola Coker followed a banana seller through a dusty roadside trading strip and listened. Not because he was being kind, because she knew something he did not. That distinction would matter later. The problem with seeing something for yourself was that it became harder to misname it later. On Monday morning, Kola opened the weekly project report. Minor access disruption. He deleted the sentence. Then he typed, current access changes have reduced customer flow for several roadside traders. Impact requires direct assessment before further clearance. He stared at the wording. Less elegant. More true. Marcus entered without knocking. You changed my report. Kola looked up. I corrected it. You made a local nuisance sound like a material project risk. If it becomes a grievance issue, it is a project risk. Marcus sat down slowly. This is about that woman. Kola's expression went flat. This is about inaccurate reporting. She has got into your head. Careful. Marcus leaned back. Kola, I am not insulting her. She is intelligent. Very intelligent. That is exactly why I am telling you not to confuse intelligence with perspective. What does that mean? It means she sees 12 stalls. We see a development that will employ hundreds. Kola closed the laptop, and if 12 people are treated wrongly, that becomes acceptable at 13 jobs? 50? 100? Marcus' eyes narrowed. You know that is not what I said. No. You said something more comfortable. The room went still. Marcus lowered his voice. We both know projects create losers and winners. The question is whether the overall result is worth the disruption. Kolas had said versions of that sentence himself. That was what made it irritating. Overall result, he repeated. Yes. Fine. then overall result includes the cost we are pretending not to see. Marcus stood. I'll have the site team revise the impact note, and no more fencing changes without notice to the affected traders. Marcus' mouth opened. Notice, Marcus. Not permission. Understood. He walked out. Kola reopened the laptop. He found himself thinking of Sade saying, "The bananas do not sell themselves." He disliked how often her sentences stayed behind after she left. At the market, Sade had a more immediate problem. Her supplier, a broad-shouldered man. Everybody called Uncle Deal, though he was not uncle to any of them, stood beside his van with a folded invoice in his hand. "You are carrying too much balance." Sade knew. "I will clear part on Friday. You said that last Friday. I paid something. You paid small. Business has been slow. I know why. I also have business." There was no cruelty in his voice. That was worse. Cruelty was easier to fight. A man protecting his own cash flow was simply doing what she did every morning. "How much can you release?" she asked. "Half your normal order. That will finish before weekend. Then pay cash for the rest." Sade rubbed her thumb against the edge of her notebook. "Give me 60%. Half, 55. He laughed. "You bargain like you are buying land. I am buying time." He looked at her for a moment. 55. "But Friday, I need money." "You will get it," he pointed at her. "Don't make me regret knowing your face." "I won't." After he left, Bissy came closer. "You see why I said collect that man's envelope?" Sade did not answer. Bissy softened. "My daughter, principal, does not pay supplier." "No." Sade looked at the half-empty crates. "But if I sell my mouth today, I will still need it tomorrow." Bissy shook her head. "You and your mouth. It has carried me this far. Your legs helped." Sade laughed. Then a customer came, and the conversation ended because business did not wait for philosophy. 2 days later, Zainab called Sade. "I need to verify some information." "From me?" "From anyone willing to provide it." Sade glanced at the morning crowd. "Can you come here?" A pause. "To the market?" "Yes, I can. You people always call us to your office." Zainab's voice stayed calm. "Then perhaps it is my turn to travel." Sade liked her immediately. Zainab arrived carrying a folder, bottled water and flat shoes, sensible enough for dust. She did not bring security. She did not announce herself. For 3 hours, she sat under a patched umbrella beside Bissy's stall and asked questions, not leading questions. Not, "They cheated you, correct?" Instead, "When did you first hear about relocation? Who spoke to you? What document did you sign? Did you receive a copy? What amount entered your account? Do you know what it was for? Were you told you could dispute the amount?" When somebody did not know, Zainab wrote, "Does not know." When 2 stories contradicted each other, she did not choose the one she preferred. She wrote both. Sade watched her and learned. That afternoon, Peter pulled out an old phone. "I have the alert." Zainab looked up. "For the compensation? I think so." "Show me." The payment reference had a project code. Zainab compared it with the amount listed on the company's schedule. Different. The date was different too. "What was this payment for?" she asked. Peter scratched his chin. "They said it was disturbance money when the first survey people blocked my stall." "Did you sign anything?" "One paper." "Do you have a copy?" No. Sade leaned in. "His company list says that payment was full relocation compensation." Zainab looked at her. "I know what the list says." Then, "But one conflicting payment does not prove why it was coded that way." Sade sat back. It was not the answer she wanted. which was probably why she trusted it. At 5, Zainab closed her folder. I need your original notebooks if you are willing. Sade's hand moved over them instinctively. Original? I can copy them here instead. Yes, copy. Zainab nodded as if she had expected that. You are right not to hand over your only records. Sade looked at her. Most people from big companies don't say things like that. Most people from big companies should. They spent another hour photographing pages. Before leaving, Zainab asked, Why did you keep these records this carefully? Sade shrugged. Because if I don't know where money is going, I will wake up one morning and call bad luck what was actually bad accounting. Zainab stopped writing. Then she smiled. I may borrow that sentence. You will pay royalty. Of course. The first real crack in Meridian's records appeared 3 days later. It was not dramatic. No hidden vault. No confession. Just one payment reference that appeared twice. 2 different traders. Same transaction identifier. Zainab found it while comparing the subcontractor's disbursement schedule against the project ledger. She checked again. Then again. One trader had confirmed receipt, the other had not. She expanded the sample. 3 more inconsistencies appeared. Then a 5th. Not proof of theft. But enough to stop calling Sade's form an isolated anomaly. Zainab walked into Kola's office at 7:20 that evening. He was still there. You were right to order the review. Kola looked up from his screen. That's a dangerous opening sentence. It gets worse. She placed a summary sheet in front of him. He read silently. Duplicate references. Inconsistent coding. Acknowledgements without matching confirmation. Amounts reported as paid, but not yet matched to bank evidence. This is preliminary. Yes. Could it be poor administration rather than diversion? Yes. Could it be both? Yes. Kola leaned back. How far do you need to go? Farther than Section C. He nodded. Do it. Zainab did not move. What? Marcus will resist. Marcus can resist. He will say the audit threatens delivery. He will be correct. And inaccurate books threaten more than delivery. Zainab studied him. You sound different. Kola's eyes narrowed. I hired you for compliance, not psychological analysis. Good night, Kola. She left before he could answer. That weekend he went back to the market. This time Sade was not impressed. You again? You say that as if I owe admission. You owe me answers. I have one. Her hands stopped sorting fruit. Kola lowered his voice. The review found enough inconsistencies to expand. Sade searched his face. Meaning your complaint is not being treated as an individual payment dispute anymore. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. Relief. Then immediately. How long? I don't know. When will clearance start again? I don't know. What happens to us while you people investigate your own people? I don't know. Sade stared at him. You are improving, he frowned. At what? Saying you don't know. Kola gave her a dry look. Don't become too comfortable. She smiled. He noticed a stack of handwritten pages beside the cash box. What is that? None of your business yet. Yet? Sade covered the pages with a cloth. Buy banana. I don't want banana. Then stop blocking customers. He moved aside. A young woman in office clothes bought 2 bunches. Sade wrapped them in old newspaper and gave change. Kola watched. Do you ever stop working? Do you? Yes. When? He thought. She laughed. Exactly. Kola reached for 1 banana from the display. Sade slapped his hand lightly. Pay. He looked offended. You know who I am. That is why I know you can pay. He pulled out his wallet. "No cash," she said. "You take transfer?" "Of course." She pointed to a laminated account number taped under the table. Kola stared at it. Sade lifted one eyebrow. "What? You think roadside means Stone Age?" He laughed again. It was becoming a problem. Later that afternoon, when traffic slowed and the heat softened, Sade finally uncovered the papers. "Come." Kola stepped behind the stall. She spread the pages on a crate. "What am I looking at?" "A relocation plan." He looked at her. "You made a relocation plan. I made a better one than yours. That is a bold claim. I sell banana. Boldness is free." He sat on the low plastic stool she pushed toward him. The plan was rough. Hand-drawn map, trader categories, peak customer periods, approximate space needs, people who required cooking access, people who needed storage, businesses dependent on evening traffic, people who could move first without losing much, people who could not. Sade pointed to a shaded block on the map. This place, Kola knew it, an underused frontage beside one of the company's temporary logistics yards. "We are using that for material staging. Part of it." "How do you know?" "I went there. You walked onto a construction logistics site." "I stood outside the fence, Mr. Coker. Relax." He frowned at the map. "You want temporary stalls here?" "Yes." "For how long?" "Until the permanent commercial units are ready or traders choose another arrangement." "Who told you permanent commercial units were available?" "Nobody." "Then why put them here?" "Because your own brochure shows small retail units. Those units are commercial leases, not replacement stalls." "Then this plan has a problem." She picked up a pen and crossed out a line. Kola stared. She did not defend a bad assumption, she corrected it. That was rarer than intelligence. "Continue," he said. Sade did. She proposed moving traders in groups, instead of all at once. The food sellers first, to the better shaded section. Phone and clothing sellers later, because their stock could move without spoilage. Fresh produce sellers needed visible roadside access. She'd suggested signs at the old location for several weeks, and one shared loading point for suppliers. "Who pays for the temporary structures?" Kola asked. "Your project." "Convenient. You are the one moving us." He nodded. "Fair. And traders should pay something small for maintenance after the first period." That surprised him. "Why?" "So people don't treat it like free property." Kola leaned forward. "Who manages allocation?" "Joint committee, which means nobody manages it." Sade pointed the pen at him. "See? That is why I needed somebody difficult." He stared at her. She smiled. For the next 40 minutes, they argued over a plan neither of them had expected to exist. He attacked numbers. She attacked assumptions. He asked who carried liability for electrical connections. She admitted she had not considered it. She asked why the company could spend heavily on branded fencing, but not on clear directional signs for displaced traders. He had no answer. He asked what happened if customers still did not follow. She said, "Then at least we failed after trying the right problem." That sentence made him stop. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. You have that face." "What face?" "The one you make when you want to disagree, but the argument is not ready." Kola laughed under his breath. "You think you know me now?" "No. I know customers. You are a customer who has not decided what he wants." He looked at the bananas. "Maybe I want another one. Pay first. Your business model is aggressive. It survives." For a moment, neither spoke. The traffic hummed nearby. A child chased a plastic bottle between two stalls until BC shouted at him to stay away from the road. Kola looked down at the rough plan again. Why did you do all this? Sade's answer came without performance. Because fighting you does not feed anybody. He looked at her. We need a solution, she continued. If your project is going to happen, shouting every day will not stop it forever. And if we move badly, some people here will not recover. So I tried to solve that. Kola had sat through strategy retreats that cost more than every stall on that road combined. People had used words like synergy and stakeholder architecture and transition ecosystem. Sade had used a biro, an old map, and 2 evenings. And somehow she had reached the problem faster. He folded the pages carefully. I want my planning team to review this. Sade put her hand on them. Copy, he looked up. Copy? You are not taking my only one. Kola smiled. You learned from Zainab. I learned before Zainab. Of course you did. She took the papers to a nearby print shop. Kola waited at the stall again. This time, he did not check his watch. That evening, he sent the plan to 3 executives. One reply came within 12 minutes. Interesting community proposal. Needs professional restructuring. Kola stared at the phrase. Professional restructuring. He wrote back. Restructure the document if you like. Do not restructure the problem out of it. Then he pressed send. He sat in the quiet office after everyone else had gone. For no sensible reason, he thought about love. Not Sade. Love itself. He had once believed in it enough to propose marriage. That was the embarrassing part. Years earlier, before the newspapers started calling him reclusive, before business magazines turned his unmarried status into a personality trait, he had been engaged to a woman named Lillian. There had been nothing villainous about her. That was important. No secret lover, no stolen money, no dramatic betrayal. Just 2 people who slowly discovered that they were building a merger and calling it a marriage. Guest lists became business alliances. Property became negotiation. Family expectations became leverage. One evening, Lillian had asked him whether his company shares would remain separate after marriage. A reasonable question. He had answered. Then he had asked why they had not discussed where they would spend Sundays. She had laughed. Not cruelly. Just surprised that he cared. The wedding never happened. Afterward, Kola decided the whole business of love was branding. People wanted security, access, beauty, status, children, companionship, social approval, or somebody to soften loneliness. Fine. Call the thing by its name. Need. Exchange terms. He found that easier. Safer too. Then Sade had refused an envelope she needed, not because money meant nothing to her. He had seen her face when he named the amount. Money meant plenty. She had refused because taking it would have cost something she valued more. Kola did not know what to do with that. So he did what he always did when a thing disturbed him. He opened another spreadsheet. 3 nights later, rain broke over the city just before closing. Not gentle rain, the kind that made people run first and ask questions later. Sade dragged a tarpaulin over the fruit while Bissy shouted instructions nobody could hear. Water rushed along the edge of the road, carrying plastic wrappers and one lonely slipper toward the drain. Kola's car pulled up on the other side. He had come from a project meeting and was still in his cobalt suit. By the time he crossed the road, the shoulders were already dark with rain. Sade looked at him. You people have umbrellas in Billionaire land. My driver has it. Where is your driver? trying to turn around. Then your umbrella is enjoying itself. He grabbed one corner of the tarpaulin before the wind lifted it. Sade stared. What? He asked. You know how to hold plastic? I built a logistics company. That did not answer my question. Together they secured the sheet. For 10 minutes, Kola stood behind a banana stall while rain hammered the zinc roof and splashed his expensive shoes. Bisi took one look at him and laughed. See development. Kola blinked. Sade turned away so he would not see her smile. When the rain eased, Bisi pushed 2 plastic plates toward them. Rice, stew, a small piece of fish. Eat. Kola looked at Sade. She shrugged. If you ask for bottled water, she will insult you. I have bottled water in the car, Bisi heard. Then, go and drink your car. Kola sat. It was the first meal he had eaten that week without checking a screen. Sade noticed. You are uncomfortable. I'm sitting on a chair designed for somebody half my size. No inside. He glanced at her. Do you analyze all customers? Only difficult ones. Bisi moved away to pack bowls. Rain ticked softly now. The market had gone quieter. Power was out on the row, and the generator refused to start. Headlights dragged long reflections across wet ground. Kola ate another spoonful. Sade asked, Why are you not married? He nearly choked. She laughed. You see, Heartless billionaire can survive bulldozers, but one question. Who calls me heartless? Internet, he frowned. You read gossip about me? I have data. Terrifying. She waited. He could have ignored the question. Normally, he would. Instead, he said, I was engaged once. Sade's expression changed. Less teasing. What happened? Nothing dramatic. That sounds like something dramatic happened. It didn't. He set the plastic spoon down. We were compatible. Families approved. We understood each other's careers. The wedding became a project. Houses, agreements, guest lists, shares, publicity. At some point, I realized we had discussed every asset except the life itself. Sade listened. So you cancelled? We both did, and then you decided love is nonsense. He looked at her. I decided people call many things love when the terms favor them. Sade chewed slowly. What does that mean? It means you like making one experience sound like a research study. I didn't say one experience. What else? He hesitated. My parents, she waited. My father used money to keep control. My mother used silence to punish him. They stayed married because neither wanted to lose the war. Sade looked down at her plate. That is not love. Exactly, no. You said that proves love is fake. I said that is not love. He frowned. Difference without distinction. There is plenty difference. Go on. Sade leaned back. If somebody sells you rotten banana and calls it fresh, does that mean fresh banana does not exist? Kola stared at her. She smiled. Your business education is expensive. Mine is practical. He laughed. Then she added, more quietly, maybe you have only met people negotiating badly. The humor left his face slowly. And you? He asked. What about me? You believe in love? Sade wiped sauce from her thumb. I believe people can love badly. I believe people can love selfishly. I believe some people call fear love because they don't know another name. That sounds optimistic. It is not. What is it? Accurate. A small silence settled between them. Kola looked at her differently. Saw it, and immediately placed a boundary where the feeling was trying to become comfortable. Don't start looking at me like that. Like what? Like this is one of your business problems, and you have found an interesting new solution. He almost smiled. Very flattering. I am serious. So am I. Good, then hear me. We still have an active dispute with your company. I know. I am not becoming your girlfriend in the middle of it. I did not ask. You were thinking. Kola stared at her. She lifted one eyebrow. He gave up. You are unbearable, and yet you keep coming back. That one followed him home. The compliance review expanded the following week. Zainab's team requested the liaison contractor's bank schedules, signed receipt bundles, field staff assignment sheets, and communication logs related to contested cases. The contractor delayed. First, they said the finance manager was traveling. Then they said archived records were being retrieved. Then they sent partial spreadsheets without supporting documents. Zainab did not accuse them. She sent another request with a deadline. At the time, Sade kept collecting what the traders could prove from their side. She created a simple rule. No rumors. No, somebody said. No revenge stories. One evening, a man arrived claiming his cousin had been promised 3 times the listed amount. Do you have the message? Sade asked. Know who promised? One man. Name. I don't know. Then I cannot write it as fact. The man became angry. You are working for them now? Sade's eyes hardened. No, I am protecting us from nonsense. He walked away, muttering. Bissy watched him go. You enjoy trouble. I enjoy evidence. Same thing sometimes. The expanded review finally found a pattern. Not every trader had been cheated. That mattered. Most verified payments were legitimate. Most forms matched identifiable people. But one set of transactions linked to a particular field team did not reconcile properly. Some amounts had been coded under the wrong purpose. Several acknowledgements lacked proof that the named recipients had actually received the full sum. 2 signatures appeared to have been witnessed after the listed signatories had already left the area. And one group of payments had passed through an account controlled by the liaison subcontractor before being represented in Meridian's records as direct compensation to traders. Zainab sat with the numbers for half a day before she called Kola. This is now a formal control issue. How bad? I cannot tell you yet. Financial exposure? Potentially manageable. Legal? Potentially serious, depending on what further review establishes. Project. That is where your problem is. Kola looked at her. Explain. The questionable cases cluster around the sections scheduled for immediate clearance. He understood. If we clear now, we create a bigger dispute. If the documentation is wrong, yes. And if we pause, you risk the mobilization date. How long do you need? 3 weeks for a defensible internal review. Longer if the contractor continues delaying. Kola stood and walked to the window. 3 weeks. On a project of that size, 3 weeks was not 3 weeks. It was equipment standing idle, contractors rescheduling, penalty discussions, financing questions, board anxiety. Investors asking whether management had lost control. Marcus would know all of that before the meeting even started. He did. The meeting the next morning lasted 97 minutes. Marcus came prepared. So did finance. So did legal. The screen showed 2 columns. Auction A. Continue works with targeted settlement of disputed cases. Auction B. Pause affected clearance, pending expanded review. The financial estimate beside option B was ugly. Marcus stood beside the screen. Nobody is suggesting we ignore genuine complaints. We can settle verified discrepancies individually, while works continue Outside the immediate stall footprint, Zainab replied. The problem is that we do not yet know which discrepancies are individual and which come from one defective process. Marcus nodded politely. That is why we review in parallel. And if the same defective process was used to establish consent for clearance, we have legal rights to the development site. This is not only a land right question. Marcus turned to Kola. We are at risk of turning internal control review into a veto over execution. Kola said nothing. Finance spoke next. If we pause now, we should assume direct delay cost plus potential knock-on claims. I can refine the range by tomorrow. How much today? Kola asked. The CFO gave a number. Nobody reacted. People in rooms like that learned not to react to large numbers. But Kola felt it. He thought of Sade refusing an envelope that could have changed her year. Here he was considering a loss that could change a quarter. Scale did not erase choice. It only made the excuse more expensive. Marcus continued. We also need perspective. 100+ traders were processed. We have a disputed subset. Even if every disputed case is upheld, the project remains overwhelmingly compliant. Zainab looked at him. Overwhelmingly compliant is not a control standard. Marcus ignored her. Kola, you know this. No large project is frictionless. Kola did know it. That was the problem. He had spent 20 years learning how to move through friction. Now he was beginning to ask who got ground down underneath it. He closed the meeting without a decision. Marcus followed him to his office. We need to talk without an audience. Talk. Marcus shut the door. This has gone too far. Kola turned. Which part? The company is now considering a 3-week halt because a handful of traders challenged field documentation. A handful? Don't do that. Do what? Talk like her. Kola's expression changed. Marcus saw it and continued anyway. Yes, Sade. You are too close to this. What exactly are you accusing me of? Nothing improper. I am saying your judgment is being influenced by personal sympathy. Kola laughed once. Cold. Personal sympathy. You visit that market. You sit with her. You brought her handwritten plan into an executive review. People notice. Her plan identified an operational gap. It also made her important to you. Kola stepped closer. Do not confuse your discomfort with my judgment. Marcus held his ground. I have been with you since the logistics days. I know how you make decisions. You do not slow a major asset because somebody tells an emotional story. She did not tell an emotional story. Exactly. Kola went still. Marcus knew he had touched the nerve. She gave you numbers. She challenged you. She is clever enough not to ask for pity. Fine, I respect that. But she is still one stakeholder among many. And you are still one executive among many. Marcus's face hardened. What is that supposed to mean? It means this discussion is over. Marcus opened the door, then stopped. You built this company because you knew when emotion was expensive. Kola looked at him. No. I built it because I knew bad information was expensive. Marcus left. That afternoon, Kola called Sade. I need to see you. Market closes at 7. This is important. So is market. He closed his eyes. 7:30. 7:40. I have to count stock. He almost laughed. Fine. They met at a small restaurant near the market, not one of Kola's usual places. Sade chose it deliberately. Plastic menus, ceiling fans, good food. Nobody whispering his name into an earpiece. He told her about the settlement option, not confidential numbers, just the structure. We can pay disputed cases, improve the relocation package, and continue works. Sade listened. That is the easy option? It is not easy, it is easier. Yes. And the review continues. After everybody moves, potentially. She looked down at the table. Kola expected anger. Instead, she asked, "If you pay every trader correctly now, will you know why the first process failed? We will investigate. Will the same people still control the records while you continue? Controls can be added. Will the project still be under pressure to move fast? Yes. Then what changes? The affected traders receive money." Sade looked up. "That fixes the complaint. Yes. It does not fix the thing that created the complaint." Kola leaned back. "You think a company can stop every time a process is imperfect?" "No." "Then what are you asking?" "I am asking you to stop pretending you don't know the difference between imperfect and untrustworthy." His jaw tightened. "You do not understand the cost of a delay at this scale. And you do not understand the cost of losing a business when you have no second one. We are discussing different magnitudes." "Yes, you always do that." "What?" "Use size as morality." Kola went still. Sade's voice stayed low. "Your loss is bigger, so it becomes more important. Your project employs more people, so the people already here become smaller. Your numbers have more zeros, so ours start looking like dust. That is not fair." "No, it is not," he heard the double meaning. The waiter approached, sensed something, and quietly turned around. Kola lowered his voice. "You are asking me to risk a major project." "No," Sade leaned forward. "I am asking you to decide what your own information means. Don't put that decision on me." He stared at her. She continued. "If the review shows the process is trustworthy, move forward. If it shows the process cannot be trusted, then do what you would do if the bad information was about concrete strength or project finance." That hit him, because he knew exactly what he would do. He would stop, immediately. No director would accuse him of being emotional if a structural report was unreliable. No board member would say, "Only 12 columns are affected." He looked away. Sade saw the answer before he spoke. Exactly. His anger came fast because shame had arrived first. "You make everything sound simple." "No, I make you say which part is difficult. You think running a stall gives you insight into corporate governance." The second the words came out, he wanted them back. Sade's face emptied. There it was, the old line, the one he had almost stopped using. She reached for her bag. Kola. He had never heard her say his name like that. Not Mr. Coker, not Billionaire, just Kola. Flat. "You are still doing it." "What?" "Deciding a person becomes less intelligent when their work is smaller than yours. That is not what I meant." "It is what you said." He rubbed a hand over his face. "Sade, no." She stood. "You wanted my opinion. I gave it. The rest is your job." She walked out. Kola stayed at the table. For a long time. The food arrived, he did not touch it. The next morning, Marcus came into the office, expecting a decision. Kola had one. At 9 o'clock, the executive team gathered again. Kola did not use slides. He stood at the head of the table with one sheet of paper. "We are pausing clearance activity in the affected section for 21 days, subject to review progress." The CFO's pen stopped. Marcus did not move. Someone from legal asked, "Full pause, affected section only. Safety works continue. Anything that changes possession, access, demolition, or trader relocation stops." The room came alive. Questions. Costs. Contractor exposure, schedule impact, investor communication. Kola let them come. Then he raised one hand. We have records supporting clearance that we cannot currently rely on. We are not going to create irreversible facts on the ground, while arguing later about whether the paperwork was sound. Marcus finally spoke. This is disproportionate. Kola turned to him. Maybe. If the review clears the process, I will own the delay. And if it doesn't, then we will be grateful we stopped. Marcus' voice sharpened. You are making a governance decision based on a sample that is not complete. No. I'm making a risk decision because the sample is not complete and already contains material discrepancies. The CFO leaned forward. We should record the cost implication clearly. Do that. We may have to explain this to lenders. Then explain it. Board? I will explain it. There it was, the cost. Not abstract anymore. His name would sit beside the decision. If he was wrong, the delay belonged to him. Kola signed the instruction. Marcus watched the pen move. Something in his face closed. After the meeting, he waited until everyone had left. You are going to regret this. Kola capped the pen. Maybe. For what? To prove you are not heartless. Kola's eyes lifted slowly. This has nothing to do with what anybody calls me. Marcus gave a bitter smile. You think so? Be very careful. No. You be careful. You spent years building a company that could make hard decisions. Now one woman tells you the people under the numbers have faces, and suddenly you discover conscience. Kola stood. She did not discover anything for me. Then why now? Kola walked around the table. Because now I have evidence our system may be wrong. You always had errors, not like this. Marcus' laugh was soft. You know what I see. I see a man who has fallen for somebody and is trying to call it governance. Kola stopped 2 feet from him, and I see an executive unusually frightened by an audit. For the first time, Marcus's composure cracked. Only for a heartbeat. Then it returned. Do what you want. I intend to. Marcus walked out. Kola did not call Sade to tell her. He wanted to. That bothered him. He wanted her to know he had made the choice she thought he would avoid. Wanted the approval he had pretended not to care about from the first day. But she had been right at the restaurant. It was his job. So he let the site notice reach the traders through the formal channel. At 11:30, Sade read the notice taped near the site office. Temporary pause in clearance activities pending process review. Bissy read over her shoulder. He stopped it, for now. You are not happy? Sade folded her arms. I am relieved. That man likes you. Sade closed her eyes. Auntie. What? I have eyes. He also insulted me yesterday. People can like you and still be foolish. That is not a qualification. Bissy shrugged. At my age, I can tell you qualifications reduce with time. Sade laughed despite herself. Then she looked at the notice again. He had stopped it. Not for one day. Not with another envelope. He had stopped it when stopping cost him something. She did not forgive the restaurant sentence, but she placed this new fact beside it. People were allowed to be more than their worst sentence, if they did the work. Kola started doing the work. The next 3 weeks were ugly. That was how real reviews often looked, not dramatic. Ugly. Emails nobody wanted to answer. Documents arriving late. Figures that matched on one sheet and failed on another. Staff interviews where people remembered just enough to protect themselves. Field officers blaming supervisors. Supervisors blaming the liaison subcontractor. the subcontractor blaming poor record quality among informal traders. Zainab kept asking the same questions in different ways. Where did this figure come from? Who approved this batch? Who verified identity? What did this signature acknowledge? Why does the date differ? Why does one payment reference appear against two people? What does the project code actually mean? One answer opened three more questions. Kola stayed out of the evidence work as much as possible. He had ordered the review. He did not want to become its investigator too. But he read daily summaries, and every evening, the cost of the pause grew. A contractor issued a delay notice. An equipment hire window had to be changed. One investor called him personally. Are we dealing with community unrest? No fraud. Under review, then why pause? Because part of the clearance record may be unreliable. The investor was silent. Then, you realize how this sounds. Yes. Could you have settled it? Yes. And you didn't? Another silence. You'd better be right. Kola looked at the city through his office window. I'm not trying to be right. I'm trying not to move before we know. After the call, he sat alone. It was not a heroic feeling. Mostly it felt like indigestion. That evening his mother called. They spoke every Sunday, usually for 12 minutes. It was Tuesday. Kola, are you sick? No. Then why did you answer on the second ring? He smiled. Good evening to you too, Mum. She had read something online about project delays and asked if he was in trouble. Not trouble. Your voice says trouble. Work. That one is always your answer. He hesitated, then asked, do you think people can change how they love? Silence. His mother said, who are you and what have you done with my son? Mum, I am serious. Should I call security? He laughed. She softened. Yes, she said. People can change, but not because somebody explains love nicely to them. How then? They practice something different until it becomes character. Kola leaned back. That sounds exhausting. It is why many people prefer speeches. He thought of Sade. Of course, his mother had to make it worse. Good night, Mum. Kola, yes? Is she kind? He closed his eyes. Good night. His mother laughed all the way into the disconnect tone. The review reached Marcus in the second week. Not because somebody accused him of stealing. Because several warning emails had been forwarded to him before the final compensation report was approved. The emails came from a junior project controller. The controller had flagged missing acknowledgements and asked whether disputed cases should remain open. Marcus had replied, resolve documentation gaps with liaison team. Do not hold mobilization schedule for administrative closure. On its own, the email proved little. Then Zainab found another. A week later, the controller warned that some payment support was still incomplete. Marcus replied, proceed on confirmed aggregate. Exceptions can be regularized post-mobilization. Kola read that line 3 times. Exceptions can be regularized post-mobilization. He knew exactly what it meant in corporate language. Move now. Clean later, he called Marcus. They met in a smaller room this time. No board table, no audience. Zainab was there because she had to be. Marcus read the emails without visible concern. Yes, I wrote them, Zainab asked. What did you understand demarcation gaps to mean? Missing paperwork, reconciliation, the usual closeout items. Did you know some acknowledgements were unsupported? I knew the field team had open cases. Did you know disputed recipients were being recorded as compensated? Marcus paused. I knew there were coding issues. When? toward the end of the consultation window. Before final clearance certification. Another pause. Yes. Kola felt his stomach turn. Why didn't you tell me? Marcus looked at him. Because I believed they were resolvable. You certified the summary. I certified it based on the project team's representation. You had already been warned. I had been warned of exceptions, Kola, not systemic fraud. Zainab spoke calmly. No one has said systemic fraud. Marcus' eyes flicked toward her. That was the second crack, small. But there, Kola folded his arms. Why are you using that word? Marcus's mouth tightened. Because that is clearly where this is going. Only if the evidence goes there. You think I took money? I did not say that. Then say what you think. Kola's voice stayed low. I think you saw information that threatened schedule and chose to treat it as paperwork. Marcus leaned forward. You want honesty? Yes. Fine. I have spent 9 years cleaning problems nobody else wanted. Contractors who disappeared. Communities that blocked gates. Suppliers who lied. Staff who panicked. Every time. You told me one thing, get the project moving. Kola listened. Marcus continued. I learned what this company rewarded. Something in the room shifted. Not innocence. Not absolution. But truth. Kola had rewarded speed. Aggressively. He had promoted people who delivered. He had asked questions when numbers slipped, not when people complained. Marcus had made choices. But he had made them inside a culture Kola helped build. That did not erase responsibility. It widened it. Zainab asked, Did you instruct anyone to fabricate signatures? No. Did you instruct anyone to divert compensation? No. Did you know either had happened? No. Did you know the completion representation was unreliable in some cases? Marcus looked at the table. Yes, the word landed without thunder. Just yes. Zainab made a note. Marcus looked at Kola. You would have done the same 5 years ago. Kola did not answer quickly. Then he said, Maybe. Marcus seemed almost relieved. Kola continued, And if I did, it would still be wrong. The relief disappeared. Marcus was placed on administrative leave, pending completion of the review. No security escort, no public humiliation. He collected his laptop bag and left through the same lift he had used every day for years. Kola watched from inside his office as the doors closed. He felt no satisfaction. Not yet. Accountability was cleaner in stories than in offices. In real life, sometimes the person who failed you had also once helped build the thing you loved. The truth did not need them to be a monster. It only needed them to be responsible. Sade heard about Marcus's leave from Zainab, who told the traders only what could properly be shared. The review is still ongoing, she said. Please don't treat personnel action as the final finding. Peter whispered, so he is guilty. Sade turned on him. She just said, don't do that. Peter lifted both hands. Okay. Zainab hid a smile. After the meeting, Sade asked, How is Kola? Zainab looked at her. What? I asked about the project. No, you didn't. Sade frowned. Zainab closed her folder. He is tired, and learning things about his company he should have learned earlier. Sade looked toward the road. Good. Good that he's tired. Good that he's learning. Zainab nodded. Those two often travel together. That evening, Sade sent Kola a message. She typed 3 versions and deleted all of them. Finally, I heard the review is moving. I hope you are eating. She stared at it. Too soft, she added. Being foolish is worse when hungry. Then sent it. Kola replied almost immediately. Thank you for your concern, then. I assume the second sentence is the concern. Sade smiled at her phone. Bisi saw. She said nothing. For nearly 8 full seconds. Then, billionaire? Sade threw a cloth at her. The final review took longer than 21 days. Kola extended the pause by another 12. The financial impact grew. So did the clarity. The liaison subcontractor had mishandled part of the compensation process. Some payments had been incorrectly allocated. Some documentation had been completed after the fact, without proper confirmation. A small number of signatures could not be validated and were referred for further investigation. There was also evidence that funds intended for specific recipients had not reached them through the documented path. The company did not pretend an internal report could settle every possible legal or financial question. Where external review was appropriate, the matter was referred onward. What Meridian could establish was enough for its own decisions. The process had failed. The project leadership had known enough to pause and had chosen speed instead. Marcus's employment was terminated following the company's disciplinary process. The liaison contract was ended. Payment controls were changed. Affected traders received corrected settlements, where amounts were verified as owing. But Kola insisted on one more thing. The relocation plan could not go back to the old brochure. Use Sade's map as a starting point, he told the planning team. One manager looked uncomfortable. The handwritten one? Yes. We have developed a professional version. Good. Does it still solve her problems? The manager hesitated. Kola leaned back. That hesitation is why we are asking her. This time, Sade was invited into the planning room before the plan was finished, not after. That difference mattered more to her than the glass walls. The first planning session almost failed in the first 15 minutes. Not because anybody shouted, because everybody spoke a different language. The architects talked about circulation. The site team talked about loading access. Finance talked about temporary infrastructure cost. The traders talked about shade, water, customers, toilets, security at closing time, and whether a woman carrying 2 crates could cross from the loading point without fighting motorcycles. All true, all incomplete. Sade sat near the middle of the table with Bisi on one side and Peter on the other. She wore a pale blue blouse that day, no apron, and still looked more comfortable behind a fruit stall than under recessed office lights. One planner projected a layout. We've created 40 standardized units. Bisi raised her hand. Standard for who? The planner blinked. Standard in dimension. I cook food. Yes, Ma Peter sells phone charger. Yes, if his charger catches fire, he can throw it away. If my pot catches fire, all of you will run. Peter protested. Auntie, why my own charger must catch fire? The room laughed. The planner did too. Then he changed the slide. That was how the meeting began to work. Not with one side winning. With the problem becoming specific. Food sellers needed ventilation and safer cooking arrangements. Fresh produce needed shade and quick loading. Tailors needed power, but less frontage. Phone accessory sellers needed security at closing. Some traders wanted to move together because they shared customers. Others wanted to separate because their businesses competed too directly. Kola stayed mostly quiet. He watched his team listen, really listen. It was awkward at first, then useful. Near the end, one manager suggested the company appoint a facility operator to control the temporary trading area. Sade asked. At what cost? The manager gave an estimate. Several traders reacted at once. Too high. Kola looked at Sade. What would you do? She tapped her pen. Shared management, meaning small committee from traders. One company representative during transition. Clear rules. Maintenance contribution after the first month. The manager frowned. Collecting small fees from dozens of informal traders can become messy, Sade nodded. Yes, he seemed surprised. You agree? Of course, messy does not mean impossible. Kola leaned back. There it was again. She never pretended her side had no problems. She only refused to accept that difficulty automatically belonged to the weaker person. After the meeting, Sade stayed behind to gather her papers. Kola waited by the door. She noticed. You can go. I know. You have billionaire things. I cancelled 2 of them. That sounds irresponsible. He smiled. Then the smile faded. Sade. She looked at him. I owe you an apology. She kept packing. For which one? Fair. He stepped closer, but not too close. At the restaurant, I used your work to dismiss your judgment. I knew better by then. I said it because I was angry. You had pushed me into an answer I didn't like. Sade stopped. He continued. That was disrespectful. Not because selling bananas is somehow beneath corporate work, and I should have pretended otherwise. Because your work had already shown me you understood the issue. I ignored that when it became inconvenient. She looked at him for a long moment. That is a better apology. Then what? Then I'm sorry you felt insulted. Kola grimaced. People actually say that? People with glass offices. He laughed. She did not let him escape that easily. And don't do it again. I'll try. No, you will fail again in another way. Everybody does. Just don't defend it for 3 weeks when somebody tells you. Kola nodded. Agreed. Sade picked up her bag. That does not mean I am dating you. He stared. I did not ask. You are still thinking. Are you reading my board papers too? No, your face is less confidential. She walked past him. Kola followed her into the lift. Dinner? No coffee? No banana? She looked at him. That one you can buy. He grinned. Progress, apparently, came in units. The traders moved in phases over the next month. Not smoothly. One temporary power connection failed during the first week. A signboard was placed too high for pedestrians coming from the bus stop to notice. A delivery van blocked the shared loading bay on a Friday morning and nearly caused a fight between 3 traders and a subcontractor. Bisi complained that her first cooking space trapped too much heat. Sade's first stall position looked good on the map, but was partly hidden behind a support column from one direction. There were arguments, changes, more arguments. That was the point. Consultation did not mean everybody became happy. It meant the people living with a decision could tell you when the drawing had failed reality. Sade moved her stall 5 meters after the first week. Sales improved, not fully, but enough. Her supplier balance began to shrink again. The day she cleared Uncle Dale's overdue amount, she sent him this transfer and waited. His reply came 2 minutes later. Good. Now I can know your face again. She laughed so hard Bisi asked what had happened. Debt has forgiven me. Debt does not forgive. It sleeps. Bisi was right. Still, that night, Sade closed her account book with a different kind of satisfaction. The business had survived, not because somebody gave her a fortune, because she had protected the thing that earned tomorrow's money. Kola visited less often during the relocation period. Sade noticed. She also so hated that she noticed. When he did come, he asked practical questions and left. No flirting, no private dinners, no surprise gifts. At first she assumed he had lost interest. Then Zainab, who had become annoyingly observant, said, "He is trying not to use proximity while your business still depends on company decisions." Sade looked at her. "He told you that?" "No." "Then how do you know?" "Because he asked me whether inviting you to dinner would create an inappropriate pressure while remediation was ongoing." Sade's mouth opened. Zainab smiled. "I told him if he has to ask compliance how to date a woman, he has bigger problems." Sade burst out laughing. For the rest of the day, Kola's seriousness amused her, but beneath the humor was something else. Respect again. He was learning to wait, not because waiting felt romantic, because timing could create pressure even when nobody intended it. That mattered to Sade. 2 months after the relocation had stabilized, Kola came to the stall just before closing. No site meeting, no compliance file, no project question. He bought 4 bananas, paid immediately. Sade inspected the alert. Correct amount. I have grown. Small. He leaned against the side of the stall. The remediation phase closes Friday. I know. Your compensation issue is complete. I know. The temporary facility management is now with the traders' committee under the agreed terms. I know, Kola. He looked almost nervous. That delighted her more than it should have. So, he said. Sade kept sorting bananas. Where? His expression changed. He had expected another no. She saw it. Don't look happy yet. I am not. You are shining. I moisturize. She laughed. Not your expensive place. Why? Because I want to hear you when you talk. They are quiet. Exactly. Too quiet. Everybody will hear us. He considered. Your choice. Saturday 7. I'll send a car. No, I can pick you. No. Sad. I know how to reach restaurant. Kola nodded. Saturday 7. She handed him his bananas. Don't be late. He looked offended. I am never late. You were late to your own conscience. He stared at her. She smiled sweetly. Good night. Their first actual date was almost ordinary. That was what Kola liked about it. Nobody cleared the room. Nobody brought champagne without asking. They ate grilled fish and jollof rice at a place Sade liked because the owner played old music too loudly and never reduced the pepper for rich-looking customers. They talked about things that did not matter to the project. Sade's childhood in a home where her mother stretched every naira and could make 3 meals from ingredients that looked like one. Kola's first delivery van, bought second-hand and so unreliable, he kept a mechanic's number written on paper in the glove compartment. Because his phone once died during a breakdown. Sade laughed at him. You? Pushing van? I pushed it many times. I need evidence. You and evidence. Yes. Anybody can claim hardship after becoming rich. He showed her an old photograph on his phone. A younger Kola stood beside a battered white van with one headlight darker than the other. Sade stared. That shirt. What is wrong with it? Everything. It was fashionable. No court in Nigeria will accept that defense. They laughed until the waiter came back to ask if they needed anything. On the ride home, Sade sat in the back of a taxi alone and touched her cheek. She had been smiling too much. That was dangerous. Not because Kola was rich, because she liked him. Rich could be managed. Liking was where people became foolish. So she made rules. She would not take expensive gifts. She would not allow him to solve ordinary problems with money merely because he could. She would not hide her work to fit his social world. She would not become available every time his calendar opened. Kola made rules too. He would not send money unless money was actually the agreed answer. He would not use his staff to arrange her life. He would ask before helping. He would not treat every disagreement as a negotiation to win. He broke that last one first. 3 weeks into dating, Sade mentioned that her landlord wanted to increase rent on the room where she lived. Kola immediately said, "Move." "To where?" "I have an apartment in Ikoyi sitting empty." Sade stared at him across the table. He realized too late. No, you didn't even know. You're paying rent to a landlord who, Kola, it is empty. That is your problem. It would cost you nothing. It would cost me plenty. What? My independence? He shook his head. That is dramatic. Sade leaned back. See? Again, he stopped. She continued. You think because the money is easy for you, the decision should be easy for me. Kola rubbed his forehead. I was offering help. I know. Then why are you angry? Because you offered a whole apartment before asking what I plan to do. He looked at her. What do you plan to do? I am negotiating the increase. If he refuses, I will find another place I can afford. Kola swallowed the next argument. Sade watched him do it. Very good. Don't praise me like a child. Then stop behaving like one. He laughed despite himself. That was how their relationship grew. Not through perfection. Through correction that did not become humiliation. Through apologies that changed behavior. Through the discovery that two strong people did not need one person to become small. Meanwhile, Sade had started thinking beyond one stall. The relocation committee revealed something she had never seen clearly before. Every trader negotiated alone. They bought stock alone, paid transport alone, lost money alone. Yet many of them used the same wholesalers and the same routes. One Saturday morning, she gathered 6 produce sellers under BC's umbrella. What if we buy together? A man named Yusuf frowned. We will fight. Yes. Then why? Because we already fight and still pay too much transport. BC laughed. Sade explained. If they combined selected orders, they could negotiate better transport and reduce repeated trips. They could share a small storage room for produce that needed protection from heat. They could track spoilage together and learn which suppliers handled fruit better. Not a charity, a cooperative arrangement. Peter, who did not sell produce, listened from nearby. Can phone people join? No, why? Because Banana and Charger have different problems. Peter shook his head. Discrimination. Open your own cooperative. That first meeting lasted 2 hours and produced almost nothing except arguments. The second produced 3 rules. The third produced a trial order. The trial order saved less money than Sade hoped, but enough to try again. Within 2 months, they had a small shared storage arrangement and a rotating schedule for supplier collection. Sade's business improved. So did her confidence. One evening, she showed Kola the figures. He studied them. Your transport cost per unit dropped. Yes. Waste improved too. Yes, you need better cold storage. Yes, I can fund. Sade looked at him. Kola stopped. She waited. He tried again. What is your plan for financing cold storage? Sade smiled. Now you are learning. She explained that they could contribute part, but not enough for equipment and a proper storage space. They were considering a small business loan or supplier partnership. Kola asked questions, only questions. At the end, he said, Meridian has a small vendor development program. Sade's face changed. He raised a hand. Before you shout, it has an application process. I do not choose winners, and if your cooperative applies, I will recuse myself from anything related to it. She narrowed her eyes. You practiced that speech. Twice. Good. Interested? Send me the public information. No private shortcut. No private shortcut. She nodded. Then send it. The cooperative applied and lost. Sade read the rejection email twice, then a third time. Bissy cursed on behalf of everybody. Yusuf said he had known from the beginning. Peter, who was not even part of the application, said, Rich People Program. What did you expect? Sade wanted to agree. It would have felt good. Instead, she read the feedback. Weak governance structure. Insufficient documentation of member contributions. No clear maintenance reserve. Demand assumptions not supported beyond current traders. Painful. Also true, she called Kola. We lost. I heard. You knew? I was told only after the decision. Did you interfere? No. She was quiet. Good. Kola smiled into the phone. You sound disappointed. I am. In me? In losing? Good. Why good? Because if you were angry, I didn't rescue it, we would have a different problem. Sade sat down. They gave feedback. Use it. I intend to. That was all. No secret reversal, no phone call, no envelope. Sade and the cooperative spent 6 weeks rebuilding the application. They formalized member contributions, created simple rules for withdrawals and defaults, opened a separate account, tracked 3 months of combined purchases, documented spoilage before and after the storage experiment. They added a maintenance reserve to the budget. And because the first program cycle had closed, they applied elsewhere too. A produce distributor offered a matching arrangement. If the cooperative could contribute a set portion toward a small cooled storage unit and commit to minimum purchase volumes. This time, the numbers worked, not perfectly, but honestly, they accepted. When Sade told Kola, his first question was, Do you understand the minimum purchase clause? Yes. Show me. She sent him the page. He read it. You can carry this volume. On current members, barely. We are adding 2 sellers after a trial period. What if 3 members default? We built a reserve. He nodded to himself. You don't need me. Sade was silent for a moment. Then she said, That is not the same as not wanting you. Kola did not answer. She could almost hear him stop breathing. Kola? Yes, you are very quiet. I am learning not to ruin useful moments. Sade smiled. Good, continue. By the time the first cooled storage unit arrived, the old roadside row had changed beyond recognition. The permanent development was rising behind the temporary trading area. Steel became concrete. Concrete became walls. Walls became glass. The same kind of glass Sade had once disliked in Kola's office. She still disliked too much of it. But now, when she looked at the building, she no longer saw only the thing that had nearly pushed them away. She saw meetings, arguments, corrected records, 37 days of delay nobody had wanted. A temporary market that actually had drainage, because Bissy had refused to stop complaining until the engineers listened. A loading point that worked because Yusuf had stood there one morning with a stopwatch and proved the first design caused delivery vehicles to queue into the road. The project had changed. So had the company, not completely. Companies did not become moral because one founder learned a lesson. But Coker Meridian changed several things that could be checked. Community impact reports now had to distinguish between stall open and trading unaffected. Payment records required clearer evidence of recipient confirmation. Disputed cases could no longer be closed merely because aggregate targets had been met. And project reviews included one question Kola had added himself. What does this number fail to show? The first time he saw it on a board pack, he thought of banana sap on an orange apron. He did not tell anyone. Sade's cooperative grew from 6 members to 11. Slowly. She insisted on trial periods. People complained. She insisted anyway. Relationship is good, she told them, but relationship without records becomes quarrel. BC said, "Look at this woman. Small, she has become compliance officer." Zainab, who happened to be visiting that day, replied, "We are recruiting." Sade pointed at her stall. "I already have job." Everybody laughed. That answer mattered. Not because selling bananas was the highest thing she could ever do, but because no one else would decide when it had become too small for her. She did eventually move beyond the old stall. On her terms. The cooperative rented a modest ground-floor unit near the new trading area. Part storage, part distribution point, part storefront. The walls were plain cream. The floor was easy to wash. The cooled room made a soft mechanical hum at the back. Sade kept one old wooden crate by the front counter. Kola asked why. Memory. Sentimental. You are becoming soft. Be careful, he smiled. Their relationship had survived almost a year by then. That surprised Kola more than any business turnaround he had ever managed. Not because they did not fight. They did. Sade hated when he went silent during conflict and returned 12 hours later with a fully organized argument. Kola hated when she said, "Nothing," in a tone that clearly meant there were at least 6 things. He once missed her cooperative anniversary dinner because a board meeting overran. She did not speak to him for half a day. Then she did speak, which was worse. "You could have called. I sent a message after the dinner started. I couldn't leave the meeting. I did not ask you to leave. I asked you to remember I was waiting." That one sat with him. He stopped defending. "You're right," Sade blinked. "That was quick. I am developing new efficiencies." She tried not to laugh. Failed. He apologized properly. Then showed up the next morning at 6:30 while the cooperative unloaded produce. No flowers, no jewelry. He carried crates, badly. Sade watched him nearly drop one. "Billionaire, use 2 hands." "I have 2 hands." "Then introduce them to each other." He glared. She laughed. That was repair, not punishment. Not grand gesture. Changed behavior with sweat on it. Kola's mother met Sade 6 months into the relationship. Sade had been more nervous than she admitted. Kola noticed because she changed earrings 3 times. "You are nervous?" "No." "You have changed those earrings 3 times. I am selecting. You selected the first pair 20 minutes ago. Go and wait in your car." His mother, Grace Coker, turned out to be smaller than Sade expected, and much sharper. She hugged her once, sat down, and asked within 5 minutes, "So you are the woman who taught my son to wait, Mum?" Sade looked at Kola. "He told you?" "No. He is more patient now. We all noticed." Kola covered his face. Grace smiled at Sade. "Thank you." Sade shook her head. "No, Ma, he did the work." Grace's smile changed. Approval. Sade recognized it because she had once given Kola the same look beside a bulldozer. Later, when Kola drove her home, he asked, "You could have accepted the credit. For what? For changing me." Sade turned toward him. "I did not change you. You influenced me." "Yes. Isn't that the same?" "No." She looked out of the window at the lights passing outside. "If I changed you, then when I leave the room you can change back. You chose different things. Keep choosing them." Kola said nothing for a while. Then, "You make love sound like work." "It is." "That is not romantic. Who told you truth is always romantic?" He smiled. She added, "Sometimes it has nice dinner that I can do." "Yes. That one you understand." The permanent Meridian Square opened without the spectacle Marcus had once planned. There was a launch event, of course. Investors came. Partners came. The press came. Kola gave a short speech. He talked about delays, not all of them, just enough. He said the project had learned that speed was not the same as progress if the information underneath a decision could not be trusted. He did not mention Sade by name from the stage. She had asked him not to. "This is your company event," she had said. "Don't turn me into evidence that you have become a good person." He had laughed, then realized she was serious. So he didn't. After the speeches, he found her near one of the smaller commercial units with Bissy. Bissy wore bright purple and looked as if she personally owned half the building. "You spoke well," Sade said. "Only well. Do you want invoice for praise?" He smiled. Bissy looked between them. "When are you two marrying?" Sade nearly dropped her drink. "Auntie." "What?" Kola, traitor that he was, looked thoughtful. Sade pointed at him. "Don't." I said nothing. "Your face said plenty." Bissy laughed until tears gathered at the corners of her eyes. There would be time for that question later, if it came. Neither of them needed to force the future just because the present was good. For Kola, that was another change. He had once treated certainty as safety. Now he could love something without owning its final shape. One Saturday, almost a year after the forged signature had stopped a bulldozer, Kola arrived at Sade's new shop just before noon. He came alone. No convoy, no assistant, no sight file under his arm. He had promised to take her to lunch. Sade was behind the counter in a light blue shirt and navy trousers, checking a delivery note against 3 crates of banana. Her orange apron hung from a hook nearby. She still wore it when work got messy. Some things deserved to survive success. Kola checked the time. 12:03. He was early, of course. Sade saw him and lifted one finger. 1 minute. A woman stood at the counter choosing fruit. Kola nodded. He waited. The customer wanted 2 bunches for home and another for a church meeting the next morning. She asked whether one set would ripen too fast. Sade explained the difference between the greener bunch and the yellow one. The woman changed her mind, then changed it again. Kola stood near the old wooden crate. He did not look at his watch. Sade noticed. The customer finally paid and left. "Sorry," Sade said. "You don't sound sorry." "Because I am not," he smiled. She finished writing one number in the ledger. "What?" he asked. "Stock variance." "You still write by hand? I also use software now." "Then why the book?" "Because electricity and phone battery have moods." "Fair." Kola looked around the shop. The cooled room hummed behind the partition. 2 employees were arranging fruit on shelves. A cooperative delivery schedule hung beside the door. Nothing about the place was extravagant. Everything worked. Kola felt something warm in his chest. Pride, perhaps. but he had learned to be careful with pride in another person's work. Her work was not his achievement, so he did not say, "Look what we built," he said. "You built something good here." Sade looked up. The difference was small. She heard it anyway. "Thank you." He leaned against the counter. "Ready?" "Almost." Kola saw a ripe banana near the edge. He picked it up. Sade's eyes narrowed. "What?" "You will pay for that." He looked at the banana, then at her. After everything, she was serious. Kola reached for his phone. "Of course." Sade's mouth twitched. He transferred the money. She checked the alert. "Correct amount." "I told you, I have grown. Small." He peeled the banana. Sade came around the counter and stood beside him. Outside, the midday traffic rolled past in waves. A delivery rider argued with somebody over directions. From the back room came BC's voice, though nobody had invited her to supervise anything. Kola laughed. Sade looked at him. "What now?" "Nothing." "You are laughing at nothing." "No." He took another bite. "I am laughing because the first time I met you, I thought the problem was one signature." Sade leaned against the counter. "And now?" Kola looked at her. "Now I know I was reading the wrong document." She frowned. "That sounded expensive. Explain." He shook his head. "No, you will charge me consultancy fee." "Yes. How much?" "Lunch first. Transaction. Relationship." He laughed again. Sade took the keys from the counter and called to the staff that she was stepping out. At the door, she stopped. A young delivery boy had arrived with 2 crates and was struggling to lift one alone. Sade put down her bag. "I will help him." Kola set down the banana peel. "So will I." She looked at his clean shirt. "You will spoil this. I can wash a shirt. Can you carry crate now?" He stared at her. She smiled. "Use 2 hands." Kola bent, took one side, and waited for the boy to take the other. Sade watched them lift together. No cameras, no board, no applause. Just work that needed doing. That was enough. There is a temptation to measure people by whatever is easiest to see first. A suit, a stall, a bank balance, a job title. But dignity does not increase with the number of zeros beside a person's name. And intelligence does not shrink because somebody earns a living with their hands. Good businesses learn this through better decisions. Good relationships learn it through respect. And when people get it wrong, as people often do, the real test is not whether they can make a beautiful apology. It is whether their next choice looks different.